There's a guy named Marcus, 31 years old, marketing manager at a mid-sized company in a mid-sized city. He makes $78,000 a year, almost exactly the median household income in America, which means he is, statistically speaking, the most average person on the planet. He does not have a boat, he does not take European vacations, he packs his lunch 3 days a week, drives a 5-year-old Honda Civic with 74,000 miles on it, and his apartment has beige walls he's not allowed to paint because the lease says so. He is not irresponsible. He is not frivolous. He is, by every reasonable definition, a guy living a completely normal life. Marcus also checks his bank account before he goes to the grocery store, every single time. His credit card balance hasn't hit zero in 14 months. He has $800 in savings. Marcus isn't bad with money. Normal is just expensive now. My name is Nick, and I've spent way too much time doing the math that makes financial advisors uncomfortable, not because it's complicated, but because of where it lands. If you've ever done everything right and still felt like you're somehow losing, subscribe and hit the like button, because today we're going to find out exactly who can afford a normal, unremarkable, completely boat-free life in 2026. And the answer is going to make you feel a lot better about yourself and a lot worse about everything else. Let's establish what we mean by normal. Not a mansion, not a Tesla, just the basics: a place to live, a car to get to work, food, health insurance, and maybe a streaming service so you have something to watch while you eat the food you bought with the money you earned driving the car to the job. That's the list. Here's what that list costs in 2026. One line item at a time, running total as we go so you can feel exactly where the money disappears. Start with housing. You're renting a 1-bedroom apartment, not in Manhattan, just somewhere in America. National median rent, $1,490 per month. Marcus clears $5,250 a month after taxes on his $78,000 salary, running total $3,760 left. Now, the car. You found a decent used vehicle, monthly payment around $537 at an average interest rate of 11.4%, by the way, because used car financing in 2026 is essentially a payday loan with leather seats. Add insurance at $210 per month, gas at $163. That's $910 for the privilege of getting to work so you can pay for the car so you can get to work. Running total, $2,850 left. Groceries. You're not buying Wagyu beef. You're buying chicken thighs, pasta, bagged salad, and whatever vegetables are on sale. The USDA calls this the moderate food plan, and it costs $430 per month. That same cart cost about $340 3 years ago. Nobody changed the chicken, just the price. Running total, $2,420 left. Health insurance out of pocket, $135. Student loans, because you went to college because that's what everyone told you was necessary to get the job that's covering all of this. $260 per month. Running total, $2,025 left. Utilities, internet, phone, $325 combined. Running total, $1,700 left, and then subscriptions. C+R research found that the average American spends $219 per month on subscriptions, but thinks they're spending about $86. That's a $133 monthly phantom expense. That's Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, a gym you visited twice in February, an app that was supposed to teach you Spanish but mostly just sends passive-aggressive notifications, and 3 free trials you forgot to cancel from 2023. Gone, silently, every month. Running total, $1,481 left. Stop there. That's $1,481 remaining for a single adult at median income, no vacation, no dentist, no savings, nothing breaking. And that's the good news version. Here's what Marcus actually does with it. He puts $200 toward his credit card, which barely touches the interest. He spends $150 on dinners out, a haircut, a birthday gift. He tries to save $100 a month, which means at that rate, his emergency fund takes 8 years to cover 3 months of expenses. In month 3, His car needs brakes. $800 goes on the credit card. In month 6, the laptop dies. Another $600. By year's end, Marcus isn't building anything. He's treading water and losing ground to interest. Marcus, by the way, doesn't have kids. He made that decision 2 years ago. Not because he doesn't want them, because he ran the numbers. Some of you are thinking, what about 2 incomes? Shared expenses? Surely that works better. I was hoping you wouldn't ask that. Is a family of 4, 2 adults, 2 kids, combined income of $133,000, top 25% of American households. They should be crushing it. Let's watch. Take home after taxes, roughly $8,000 per month. 3-bedroom rental, $2,161. 2 cars, insurance. Gas, $1,600. Family health insurance, $571. Groceries for 4, $1,100. The kids exclusively want the brand name cereal. Student loans for 2 adults, $500. Utilities, internet, phones, $375. Subscriptions, because no one can agree on what to watch, $250. Running total, $1,443 left. Now add childcare. The average annual cost of center-based infant care is $14,760 per child. Costs jumped 51.8% between 2023 and 2025 alone. 2 kids in care, at least $2,460 per month. The second income in this household isn't funding a lifestyle upgrade. It's funding the child care required to go earn that income. You are essentially running a nonprofit where the sole beneficiary is the daycare center. Congratulations on your charitable giving. Running total, negative $1,017. This household, 2 professionals, top 25% of earners, doing everything they were told to do, is running a monthly deficit before they've spent $1 on anything that isn't survival. No retirement contributions, no school supplies, no soccer cleats, no family dinner that doesn't involve a drive-through window. And here's what that actually looks like day to day. It looks like one partner quietly wondering if quitting to stay home with the kids would actually cost them money, and doing the math and realizing it genuinely might not, because the childcare bill alone is already consuming most of one's salary. It looks like 2 people who both work full-time, who both have careers, who come home exhausted every night and hand the kids off to a screen because there's nothing left in the tank. It looks like we're doing fine as a statement you say at dinner parties while privately dreading the next car repair. These aren't irresponsible people. They're not buying jet skis. They're just trying to run a family on a math problem that doesn't balance. According to a CNBC analysis, a family of 4 needs between $186,618 per year in Mississippi, the cheapest state in the country, and $313,747 in Massachusetts to live comfortably using the standard 50-30-20 framework. The median household income is $83,730. You can do the subtraction yourself. The National Association of Home Builders, the organization whose entire business depends on you buying homes, found that 75% of U.S. households cannot afford a median-priced new home. When the housing industry tells you housing is unaffordable, you've officially cleared the bar for this is not a you problem. This is not how it's always been. And it didn't happen by accident. In 1970, a single median income was enough to support a family. Actually enough, not barely. A home cost roughly 2 times annual household income. Today that ratio is 5 times. The average first-time home buyer is now 40 years old, up from the early to mid-30s 2 decades ago. We've essentially renamed the on-ramp the highway and told everyone they're just late to the merge. Home prices up 239% since 1990. Median household income up 136%. Healthcare spending per capita up 440%. College tuition up 1,200% since 1980. New car prices went from $15,000 to nearly $50,000. From 43% of median annual income to roughly 60%. Nearly $1,000 a month just to own one. Just to get to the job that's supposed to be paying for the car. I'd say it's a vicious cycle, but that implies it goes in a circle. This one just goes straight down. And the thing nobody tells you is that these increases didn't happen to each other in isolation. They all happened simultaneously. It wasn't just housing getting expensive while everything else stayed manageable. It was housing and healthcare and education and transportation and childcare all pulling away from wages at the same time in the same decades, compounding against the same paycheck. You weren't just falling behind in one category, the entire floor was rising at once. Here's the number that captures the whole structural story. From 1979 to 2025, worker productivity rose roughly 90%. Worker compensation rose about 33%, 3 to 1. And if workers had been paid in proportion to the value they produce, the median worker would earn roughly 33% more today. The gap between those two numbers went somewhere. It went to shareholders, it went to executive compensation that went from a 20 to 1 ratio in 1965 to roughly 300 to 1 today. It went to home prices that made existing owners wealthy while everyone else fell further behind. The math didn't fail randomly. It failed in a very specific direction for a very specific group of people. The middle class has been quietly shrinking the entire time, from 61% of Americans in 1971 to 51% in 2023 per Pew Research. Their share of national income fell from 62% to 42%. The top quintile share went from 29% to over 52%. Nobody sent a memo. The target just moved. Financial stress is too abstract to mean anything. Let me be specific. It feels like doing math in your head at the grocery store before you get to the register. Not because you're being careful, but because you genuinely aren't sure and you don't want to find out in front of everyone. It feels like saying you're not really a vacation person when the truth is you're a can't afford to miss 4 days of income person. It feels like a low-grade hum of anxiety that follows you around. Not loud enough to cause a crisis, just loud enough to make everything slightly worse, like a smoke detector with a dying battery that you can't quite reach. It feels like Marcus at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday opening his banking app, not because he needs to check something, but because he needs to know the number. Just to know the number. Doing the calculation, if nothing breaks this month, I should be okay. And then going to sleep and doing it again tomorrow. The statistics are bleak. 59% of Americans cannot cover a $1,000 emergency expense from savings. 27% have zero. The personal savings rate has fallen to around 3.5%, barely a third of the historical average. Total household debt hit a record $18.8 trillion. Credit card debt alone crossed $1.28 trillion, carried at roughly 20% annual interest. That is not a financial plan. That is treading water with ankle weights while someone hands you a pamphlet about compound growth. And then there's this. 44% of Americans earning over $100,000 per year say they live paycheck to paycheck. 6 figures, no room. Every paycheck already spoken for before it arrives. At that income level, that's not a discipline problem. That's a cost of living problem that doesn't leave even high earners any runway. The math isn't just changing how people feel. It's changing what they do with their lives. The US fertility rate hit a record low of 1.6 births per woman in 2024. 70% of Americans say raising children is too expensive. LendingTree estimates the total cost of raising one child to 18 at $297,000 to $375,000. 2 kids. Somewhere between $600,000 and $750,000 in additional lifetime costs on top of everything you're already paying for your own existence. For a median income household, that isn't a lifestyle choice. That's an existential arithmetic problem. Nearly half of all 18 to 29-year-olds live with their parents, the highest share since the Great Depression. Not because they enjoy it, because rent, a car payment, student loans, and groceries don't leave room for their own address. 2/3 of Gen Z say they've given up on ever affording their ideal city. Not their ideal neighborhood, their ideal city. The geography of their adult lives determined not by where they want to be, but by where they can survive. Marcus lives in his ideal city. He grew up here. He pays $1,490 for the beige walled apartment he can't paint. He considers himself lucky. He's probably right. Here's the part where I'm supposed to present both sides and be fair to every institution involved. I'll try. Your landlord's incentive is to charge the maximum the market supports. Your mortgage lender's incentive is to get you into the largest loan you'll accept. Your dealership's incentive is to extend the loan to 84 months, so the payment looks manageable while the total cost becomes catastrophic. Then congratulate you on a great deal. Your employer's incentive is to pay you exactly what it takes to keep you from leaving, and not a dollar more. Every institution in this system is optimized for their outcome, not yours, and nobody in that transaction makes money when you say, this doesn't work for me, the bank doesn't, the agent doesn't, the dealership doesn't, and yet somehow you're the irrational one for running the math. Funny how that works. The cultural messaging is just as precisely calibrated. You're supposed to own a home. That's what responsible adults do. You're supposed to drive something reliable. That's what success looks like. Like, you're supposed to have kids. That's what life is for. None of these are bad things, but when the system charges you $375,000 to raise the kids, $500,000 for the house, and $50,000 for the car, and then responds to your confusion with, have you tried budgeting? That's not a personal finance failure. That's a structural math failure wearing the costume of individual inadequacy. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell actually acknowledged this in late 2025, described a bifurcated economy where lower income consumers are struggling and buying less, while at the top, people are doing just fine. Two economies, one set of prices. Guess which price schedule the median household is shopping from. This is the part where I'm not going to tell you to cancel Netflix and make your own coffee. That's not advice. That's arithmetic theater. The numbers don't move enough to matter, and if you've watched this far, you've earned the coffee. The people who build margin in this environment do it by making smarter decisions on the 3 or 4 largest line items, because that's where the real money lives. Anchor every decision to take home, not salary. Marcus makes $78,000. He lives on $5,250 a month. Every financial decision needs to be built around $5,250 because $78,000 doesn't pay rent. Run the total cost of the car, not the payment. $537 a month over 72 months is $38,664 before a single dollar of insurance, fuel, or maintenance. AAA puts the real all-in annual cost at $11,577. Write that number down. Stare at it, then sign if you're okay with it. Run the childcare math before signing any lease. At $14,760 per year per child, childcare doesn't live in a budget line, but competes with rent. 2 kids in a major city cost more than housing in many markets. That belongs in the plan before the baby. Build the emergency fund first. 59% of Americans can't cover a $1,000 emergency. 3 months of expenses in a high-yield savings account, currently paying around 4%, is the difference between a bad month and a debt spiral. Everything else compounds better when you're not constantly draining it. Invest before you feel ready because ready isn't coming. $200 a month at 25 beats $500 a month starting at 40. Time in the market is worth more than the amount. Start with whatever you have. Increase it 5% a year. Don't wait for the budget to feel comfortable. In this environment, comfortable stays one emergency ahead of you. So, who can actually afford a normal life in 2026? The top 30% to 40% of earners can cover the basics with meaningful margin. Everyone else is making trade-offs they weren't told they'd have to make, quietly adjusting what normal means to fit what they can actually afford. This is not a generation that failed to budget. This is not avocado toast. This is a structural gap between what things cost and what wages have grown to cover, widening since the 1970s, built by specific decisions that benefited specific people, showing no signs of closing on its own. If you watch this video doing mental math about your own situation, if any of those running totals landed too close, here's what I want you to hear. The math being hard doesn't mean you're bad at it. It's hard for almost everyone. That's not a personal failure. That's the price tag on normal going up faster than the paycheck meant to cover it. You're not behind. The target moved. Marcus is still in his apartment with the beige walls, still checking his account before the grocery store, still running the math that doesn't quite work in a city he loves, looking completely fine from the outside. He's not failing. He's just paying 2026 prices on a system built for a different decade. The numbers aren't fixing themselves, but at least now you know exactly what they are. And you can stop spending energy being confused by them, wondering if you're doing something wrong, wondering why it feels so much harder than it looks like it should, and start spending that energy on the decisions that actually give you room to breathe. That's the whole game. Not the house, not the car, not the Instagram-ready kitchen, just margin. The gap between what comes in and what goes out. Protect it wherever you find it. Grow it wherever you can. Because margin is the only thing that turns into freedom, and freedom is the only thing worth actually building toward. The math is brutal, but you already knew that. Now you just know exactly how brutal and why and where to push back. That's worth something.